other thing is, soon as a question is read by me, I'm just gonna pick a random person. After that random person answers, if you would like to add on to it, please raise your hand. If that makes sense. And we have 3 or 4 microphones floating around back there, so hold up your hand for a microphone. Okay, with this in mind, guys, how are we doing? Welcome to the 2024 Faculty Question and Answer Forum. We're doing very well this week, and that competition was something. So congratulations to all the finalists who played the past couple of days. You guys really You guys look up here. This is an all-star panel that any festival would be proud of having as a forum. So we're gonna start off with quick introductions. Please say your name and the institution you represent. Faculty, let's start over here with Professor Gilmson. Go down the first row, then we start with Professor Bolen, and we'll go down the second row. Okay, so microphone.
Oh. Do I need microphone?
Yes, because it is live streamed as well.
Hello. Is it on? Yes. All right, I'm Sophia Gilmson, University of Texas at Austin, for many, many years. Retired recently, but retirement is just a word that doesn't mean anything, so don't fool yourself. I was one of the jury members for the competition and enjoyed what I heard very, very much. Very much. I have accent. Yes.
I'm Boris Slutsky, currently at Yale School of Music, going to be back at Peabody.
I'm Joe Rackers from Eastman School of Music.
Marina Lomazov, also Eastman School of Music.
Washington Garcia, Stetson University.
Anton Nel, University of Texas at Austin.
Enrico Elisi, Texas Christian University.
Michelle Cann, Manhattan School of Music and Curtis Institute of Music.
Bradley Bolen, Baylor University.
Hi, I'm SungEun Park. I'm Texas Lutheran University, faculty.
Hi, I'm Alvin Zhu, Tianjin Juilliard School.
Hi, I'm Daria Rabotkina, Cleveland Institute of Music.
Hi, my name is Pyal Kim. I'm from Rollins College in Orlando.
Hi, I'm Steve Spooner. I'm from Peabody.
Hi, I'm Mengyang Pan. I'm from the Royal College of Music in London.
Great, and I would like to thank all of you guys for submitting questions. These are very good questions. There's quite a bit over here. We're gonna try to get through as much as possible. So the first question that I wanted to address is, what are some of your pre-performance rituals? I think this is a very excellent question for our soloist tomorrow evening, Professor Anton Nel.
Well, for me, the 2 most important things before a concert is to be rested and fed. And I like to eat before I play, sort of in the middle, during, and after. So I will generally have a little lie down. Say my concert's at 7 tomorrow. I'll probably have a little lie down around 5 for about 20 or 30 minutes, and then have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and show up and play the concert. That's about it. It's not complicated at all.
And the same question, and we'll get to you, Dr. Lomazov, but same question for our recitalist for past Saturday evening, Professor Mengyang Pan.
Well, for me, I like to get into the character very early on, so sometimes even a day earlier. It helps me to settle into the recital I'm about to give the day after. And I am also somebody who advocates for exercise. Especially some of us get cold before going on stage. I don't know if, hands up if any of you feel cold hand or something. Exactly. Quite a lot of us feel the same way. So getting our blood flowing is very important. So jump around, give yourself a couple of starfish jumps, you'll be very happy.
And of course, Professor Lomazov, my microphone sliding.
Question for Professor Nel. So, do you do any warm-up the day of the recital? Do you run through the program? Do you not touch the piano? Do you do any kind of mental preparation?
Sure. No, I will normally, I'll definitely go through the program slowly at some point, and then I'll warm up a little bit before. But it's I just, if I try to make the day too special, it sort of becomes a little creepy. So I normally have, I normally follow pretty much normal activities for the day, and then I always look forward to playing in public. I love it. So it's just a matter of getting myself in the mood, and when I'm in front of all of you, I'm very happy.
And I would like to address this question for one other person who's going to be playing twice next week, I believe, in China. That same question, Professor Cann.
I definitely agree with the well-rested, except I can't really eat much before I play. So for me, it's just the rest. But one thing that I really try to do the day of is, the words you use were right. I try not to make the day too special, exactly as you said. I think for me, at some point earlier in the day, I will run through the program slowly, maybe not run completely through every piece, but at least touch every piece and just think about start pieces and just think about what I want to say through the music on the program. But then I try to leave it at that. I don't spend too many hours the day of to not tire myself out. But then as I lead up to a performance, what actually works for me is to actually just focus on things other than the program. I'm talking about a couple hours before. So for instance, I have a lot of times where somebody will come get me for the concert and they're so confused. In the dressing room, I'm often watching Seinfeld or The Office or something right before. I'll be very honest with you, I actually try to focus on things that just keep my energy up and make me happy and keep me just relaxed. And because for me, I feel like if I do, again, make the day too special or overly think about every piece and what my prep is, then I tend to build up the moment of the concert too much. And really, everything that we've been doing, we're already prepared. Really, a lot of it is trying not to psych ourselves out too much, because all the work you've already done means that you are prepared. But if you get mentally into the wrong place, that's where it goes wrong. So for me, that's what I do. I distract myself, actually, just in good ways, get rest, and then usually it's like I walk out there and I feel confident. So it works for me.
Thank you all. Okay, this is a very nice question, and I'm going to spin it around to several people. Any tips or advices for effective practices? Can we start with you, Professor Gilmson?
Effective practicing.
Yes, we need a microphone.
It depends on what stage of learning the piece you are. If you just started it new, the temptation is to play it through. Normal. But then the temptation stays. You want to keep playing it through. And that's not normal. That's where we must stop ourselves. Because I know that's what we want. We want to play. And there is a tremendous difference between playing and practicing. And that is something that not only we need to understand ourselves, we need to teach it to our students. Most of us teach, I'm sure you teach too. You are very young people, but I'm sure you teach. To explain to a young student the difference between practicing and playing. First of all, you have to understand it yourself. My question is, do you understand the difference between playing and practicing? That's the first question you have to ask yourself. And if you're fuzzy in your answer, then stop and think. Should I stop?
That's very, very good.
And think.
Can we maybe have an answer to that same question, Professor Elisi?
Wow. I think, first of all, knowing all the repertoire that you have to practice, plan your practicing in advance by knowing the trouble spots and the areas you have noticed that require more attentiveness. There are some areas that require daily practicing and other areas of the piece that require less time. So plan a little more carefully. But I also think it's very important when we usually start practicing, we don't think even twice where to start from. But when we stop practicing, it's because we stumble into something we don't like. And in so doing, we sometimes don't reach the end of something that makes sense, logical sense or musical sense. So I try, even if I stumble into something, I try to always predefine where the stopping place is, because it has, for me personally, it sets signposts for memorization. So I much prefer to know where I'm going to be stopping, because it makes a complete end, or there is a cadence point or something that makes logical sense. And if something doesn't work, I'll still go to that place because I want to train myself to reach that place. And then I will, go back and work on that difficult spot. Finally, I think for me it's important to create a world of music that is not only in the exterior, that's not only the sound that I hear out of the piano, but before playing through a certain phrase, I try to give myself enough time. It's a great exercise in patience, by the way. Enough time to hear internally the musical representation of the passage. Something has to have a feeling inside me before I use any movement to recreate what I hear. So I try to train myself to pre-hear. And then I execute a passage. This has nothing to do with the slow practicing. It can also work for slow practicing. There are many different methods, of course, but more in general, that's what I try to do more and more now. Also, practicing, I believe, changes a lot with time. So maybe this piece of advice may not always work at every stage, but it's always good to try different tools, because then that's the only way you discover what works for you at that given moment.
We'll move on to the next question. Very good question, Paxton. Very proud of you. Okay. How can I make my music stand out from others? Wow, very good, Paxton. Dr. Rabotkina, can we start with you over here, to maybe we'll move to Dr. Spooner afterwards. Microphone towards you.
I'm not sure I would think about making it stand out. I mean, you want to, of course, sound different, but I wouldn't make it kind of the point of obsession or worry. I think the more you care about what you're playing, and the more you're aware of what's out there, recordings, and think about how you want to craft it, what do you love in this piece, the more it's going to be unique. And it is unique to you.
Professor Spooner, same question. How do you make your music stand out?
Well, it's an interesting question. I would say that the best way to be very original is to read the score carefully. Because lots of pianists play the piano well, but Richter said there's a... No, I didn't. I said lots of pianists play the piano well, but few read music well. And learning to read music and what composers mean, what their symbols mean, is a lifetime of study. Because each composer creates their own universe, their own vocabulary of sound, their own meanings, and that takes many years to search. So,
Thank you very much. Okay, this next question, I'm not going to direct it towards anybody specific, but if you would like to say something, please raise your hand, because I don't want to imply anything. But the question is sort of a combination of several that has been presented, which is, how do you recover from a very negative experience on stage, whether it's a competition or a solo recital? How do you forget about it and move on? Would anybody like to volunteer for that question? We have Dr. Rabotkina, thank you.
Just easier, I have a microphone.
Excellent.
Don't run away from it. Go through it again. I mean, if it happened with a certain piece, analyze what happened and try to adjust your experience and go through this again.
For me, I would say, it depends on the city that you're in, but you can find one of those facilities where you put on the helmet and you can just smash things. I tend to do that. I just smash a lot of things and just let it out, but do it in a controlled environment. Sorry, I had to. I have nothing else more productive than that.
Would anybody like to add to this? Dr. Bolen.
I always tell my students there's two parts to learning a program. There's learning to play it for yourself and your teacher, and then there's learning to play it for other people. And those two things are not related in a way you think they are. So if you think of yourself a little bit like maybe an athlete might, you practice performing, and if you don't win every game, it's just going to be one of many successful games you're going to have. So you don't make any particular performance the end all.
Thank you very much. I'm telling Dr. Garcia not, because the next question is coming to you. And this one is a very good question. What is your favorite memory about the festival? So Dr. Garcia, you're absolutely qualified for this. Guys, just as a principle, Dr. Garcia, Professor Slutsky, and Ms. Fran Young, and myself. We are the old guard. But because Professor Slutsky did miss 1 year, so it's myself, Dr. Garcia, and Ms. Young. We're the only ones who've been here all 14 years. So, Dr. Garcia, question.
Thank you, Dr. Kwak. I'm just going to take 15 seconds. Since you are not sitting down here to answer any questions, I am going to quote Dr. Kwak on the previous question. And this, how do you recover from some experiences? And there is something you said a while ago, this was several years ago, and it's when you're playing the piano, and if something goes wrong, don't be afraid, get mad. Actually, I tried that, it works. If you get afraid, you may actually mess up more. If you get mad and say, darn it, this is the one and last mistake I made, it actually works pretty well. So I thank you for that tip, it worked very well. To answer your question, absolutely, the first festival, I will never forget how you and I were so young and naive, and we decided to open the first concert. And you and I performed the guest concerts, and we were checking in, welcoming all of the students, did the inaugural ceremony, ran here, and then played. And it was amazing, but now looking back, it was the incredible experience, but something that I would not do it again.
And Professor Slutsky, please, your favorite memory from the festival?
I wouldn't know. I'm challenged. No. Beautiful. I don't have a single memory. I just remember how incredible I mean, I see how incredible it is right now in comparison to how it all started so many years ago, and it feels basically like coming home every year, because it was a really incredible undertaking that these two had the idea. It started with the idea, let's have a festival, let's have a great festival. And it's really gratifying to see how each year there was something new, there were new people, there were new projects, and this building where we are now is also new, and I think in large part due to the success of the festival. So in terms of memories, ice cream.
Ice cream.
There were many memories. We had good times over the years.
Yes, we certainly have. Thank you. Dr. Park, same question. What is your favorite part? Since Dr. Park was at the very first one as well. She was our very first rising star. So.
And I was also first rising faculty star too.
Yes,
So
yes.
I feel like I'm just growing with this festival, like, over the over 10 years, right? Since this is our 14th festival, Well, every year was so special in different ways, and we have lots of returning participants this year. So I feel like I'm just, seeing our families, families back for this festival, for this week. So it's just really great experience. Well, just personally, like I said, I was first writing, performing, pianist and faculty star, and also I was an intern, and then I joined as a program director. Just a lot of different stages. So I'm just, this festival is just a big part of my life. Is there any particular stuff you want me to share?
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you so much. I love this next one. Do you have any advices on how to prepare for a master class? So I imagine this means master class that you are conducting, not playing in a master class, but you're the professor. So we can ask our two young ones. Dr. Kim, let's go with you. Do you have any advices on how to prepare for a master class?
Giving master class?
Giving a master class.
Everyone's laughing, right? Because I want to laugh too. I don't know. It's a tough one. So when I was looking for a job, of course, the first thing we have to do is the master class. So I asked a lot of my mentors, and all the advices they gave me was good. They all said, "Oh, just don't say, always start it with compliments. Do give as many compliments as you could, and don't say any negative things, and just be careful what you say, and then only focus on the things that you can fix, and da 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 da." But at the end, I'm realizing when I was just giving master class, I don't have time to think all about that. Really, I really don't. So I just try to see the points that I can be helpful, like from my own experience. Meaning teaching personal, like private lesson one-on-one, and masterclass is definitely different, but I try to approach in a similar way. Like, how can I help this one? Like, from my experience, what was really helpful? That's how I try to approach. I'm sure all these faculties have great advices that can chime in, I'm sure. So anyone?
We just want to hear from you.
No, this is actually, thank you so much. Somebody like Dr. Kim, just like Dr. Park over here, we have many others that have risen the ranks through the festival over the years. Dr. Kim was also a student here, then she was also a rising star, and various other things, just like Dr. Zhu, Dr. Park, Dr. Kesuma, I see Dr. Cho somewhere back there. We have a lot of people who've gone through the ranks over here and gained these experiences. So it's always great for us to get the young perspective, as opposed to people like me and Slutsky. We're old. No, maybe just me. So, how about the same question, Dr. Zhu? We're so happy to have you back here as a faculty member this year and an adjudicator. Any advices on how to give a master class?
Thank you, thank you. Well, I just love going through the piece. That's just what I think about. When I hear somebody else play it the way that I probably wouldn't envision playing it, then I kind of want to get to know it. And then I sort of just go through the piece with this person. And sometimes along the way, things that I may have had questions about it, then I talk about it with this person. And then, you know, for me, I learn much more, maybe, than the person who is receiving my masterclass. And then I think it's just a nice experience. We're all here to make some good music, and yeah, so I have a great time. I don't ever really prepare for any of these, even though I think I should. But I really just have a fun time.
So, maybe one other person. Yes, Professor Slutsky.
I'd like to share an advice that was given to me by my older colleague. He said many years ago, he said, when you give a master class, say a few things, give some praises, say a few things, and then ask the person to play it again. And everyone plays better the second time. And so everyone would think, wow, what a great teacher, you know, just a couple of words made so much difference.
That's good.
But preparation, I mean, it takes a lifetime to prepare, really. And no matter how much you prepare, you still have to react to what you are given. You can't, I mean, you can talk about the piece, but you still have to address a student whose performance you just heard. So you have to rely on your instinct and on your knowledge of whatever the subject is. And I think it's nice to know the background of the piece, of course. But often you're not given, you know, what you're going to teach. You're not given the pieces. So you just have to rely on your instincts and make sure you have the right instincts by doing the homework as a lifetime kind of project.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, got the perfect person to answer this question because I respect this professor so much as a teacher. What are the moments in your teaching career which make you feel delighted or appreciated? Dr. Rackers, as an award winner of teaching many times over.
I think that when you work with students for a long time, which is what all of us really value doing a lot, it's not so much specific moments. Obviously, when a student wins a big award, that's gratifying, and it's important to boost the confidence of the student and even the teacher. But when you work with students for a long time, it's the progress that they make along the way that's the greatest reward. Seeing how a student plays 2 years later, seeing how a student plays 3 years later. And obviously it's the weekly, monthly, yearly work that leads to the accomplishments. So for me, the most valuable thing about teaching is the process, the progress of the student and the way that builds over time. So that's what I would say.
Would anybody like to add to that? What are some of the ways that you can see yourself as a teacher? Yes, Anton.
Well, I think as teachers, there is nothing more that we want than for our students to do well. I think that is the bottom line, and we all sort of, you know, do our thing and work hard. And then sometimes what I love is when I work with a student and I know they have, you know, they have excellent potential, but sometimes it takes a while for all of this to get unlocked. And then one day suddenly they get on stage and you don't recognize the person on stage. And there's absolutely nothing more thrilling than to see that happen in front of your own eyes. It's a little bit like a miracle. And it can happen to a student of any level. And to me that is really, that it makes it so worthwhile.
Thank you, Anton. So, Anton, hold on to that microphone. This one's for you, because you're very qualified for this. How do you maintain a large set of repertoire?
Excuse me, please?
How do you maintain a large repertoire? So, just as a,
Why do you ask me that question?
well, you did a recital last week, you're gonna do a different one next week, and you got one tomorrow, and they're all different pieces. Meanwhile, you're on a cruise before, and we're just shocked and amazed at what you can do. So,
A lot of that, I will say that a lot of it has to do with being very well organized. But I will say that the bottom line between all of this, yes, I certainly do play a lot of music, but you know something? When I was young, I was very lucky, and this all comes back to teaching. I was very lucky to have a fantastic teacher, or teachers when I was young, who simply made me learn a tremendous amount of music when I was young. And I'm eternally grateful because I'm very slow now. And I'm so grateful that I learned all this stuff when I was young because now it comes back very quickly. And that for all of you, I think is significantly important because when you get to the stage, it's wonderful to be able to play a lot of music, but you need time to learn it. And then when you have it, you have to maintain it. And so for me to do that, I know myself, I know how much time I need for certain things at whatever stage of preparation they're in, but the main thing is to be super organized and to get things done. So,
very good. Thank you. Same question, Professor Cann. Your repertoire list is quite impressive as well.
I cannot go after it. Actually, what I was thinking as you were answering the question, which is interesting because it's something I tell my students now, that's actually what I am frustrated about. So for instance, when I was younger and even through a lot of my schooling, as an example, my teachers did not push me to learn a lot of concertos. We just focused a lot on more solo rep. I really regret that now because probably what I'm the most busy with now is playing with orchestras, and it's exactly what you said. When you're already teaching and performing, the time, married, all the things you may have in life, you only have so much time. Like our teachers used to they're telling you that now. Enjoy the time you have, take advantage of the practice you have, because at this stage, you're constantly trying to, as you said, be organized and steal what you can. But when you've learned many concertos in your younger years, and then you come back to pieces like this, they come to you faster, exactly what you said. But when you have not learned as much as you want to, and you have to learn it, and I'm 36, so even now, learning things now, it's a lot of pressure, it's what I regret a little bit, right? So anyway, of course, that's just one aspect of, learning in life. I'm not, my teachers gave me so much, but that particular thing, I wish I had done more. So now I tell my students now, no, we have to learn more now because this is going to be there in your fingers, right? So anyway, I guess I'm basically saying I wish that I had learned more. But that being said, for the fact that, yes, I do have to switch between a lot of repertoire rapidly these days, whether or not I've learned it, it's the organization of time is absolutely everything. And actually, what Sophia had said earlier on about practice, that was such a really good point, which is how do you take advantage of the time that you have? And Enrico, you were talking about that too. Like, how do you decide where do you stop, where you begin? All these other things, like pre-planning. You might only have 2 hours. What are you going to do because you have a concert in a couple of weeks? So in that case, I think that is the most important thing for me, that when I have the time, how do I utilize practice, right? Because I don't have the luxury to just sit there and waste time and run through things and not just get straight and have a plan of what I need to approach, because time is valuable. So that's what I will say, that for those where you are in situations where you have a lot coming up, right? You have to plan, you have to be organized. You can't just go sit down at the piano and think without any plan at all that you're going to figure all this out. You have to be thinking ahead. So that would be my advice.
I want to add also to ensure that the time spent in organizing is not larger than the time spent in doing.
Great. I would like to ask that same question for one more person, because I recently heard about these potpourri concerts that this pianist presented, particularly in Indonesia, where it presented 3 or 4 programs and let the audience choose. So, Professor Spooner, I was coming to you.
Well, I have very little to add to my colleagues who have so much experience and insight. I would say that I think this is a very boring answer, what I'm about to tell you, but you will save so much time and you will learn so much more repertoire if you simply know the harmonic analysis of the music that you are playing. I thought that I was very average when I was your age in memorizing music. In fact, I memorized quite slowly, and my teacher simply insisted that there was no lesson until the piece was memorized. And then I was being pushed, and I was dreadfully prepared for lessons, and then slowly instructed on how to organize my time, how to carefully and quickly assimilate the music in a way that didn't force me to play 8 and 10 hours in order to just simply teach my hands the piece. I had to know the music. And so simply analyzing the music and then working on things like your oral skills, improvising, composing yourself, all of these skills come together, and I will say they were so important to someone like Liszt that the study of the Liszt Academy for a pianist included courses in composition and improvisation, because those two skills were so integral to learning and performing and interpreting music.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I like this question very much because we have a perfect person for this. I have often been told that my sound needs to get bigger. How do I develop a bigger sound? From the inspiration from last Saturday, can we ask Professor Pan that question? How do I develop a bigger sound?
Did you say me?
Professor Pan. Sorry,
Okay, good.
Cann and Pan, sorry. Professor
What
Pan.
conversation did we have?
No. For reference to her Liszt performance last Saturday where...
Well, I think I was taught from a young age to utilize everything I have because I'm rather petite. For somebody who has small hands and a small frame, it was important for me to figure out a way to even use, it sounds a bit silly, but use all the energy I can gather from the ground. Meaning the energy goes through my legs all the way to my fingertips when I deliver the power that I need. And that means I keep on saying, particularly now I'm teaching, it's one thing to understand how I feel, but it's harder for somebody to translate that to somebody else. So I try to teach my student to develop their own set of choreography and their own set of coordination in order to be able to produce the sound that is suitable for their own body. I think it's rather difficult to try to mimic somebody else's sound. But I think all of us are powerful, providing we know how to move, and providing how we can sit that is suitable for us. So earlier we were talking about, how to practice. I think one thing to develop power, so to speak, or anything that you want to express on the piano, I think is to develop one's awareness of oneself. So when you're practicing next time, ask yourself, how much are you aware of what you just did? Both musically and physically. Because communication is one thing to feel in your heart, but you need to physically deliver that communication. Thank you.
Same question about power and big sound on the piano. Dr. Lomazov.
I don't know if I can add any more to what you just so beautifully described, I think big sound is always in relation to other sounds. So while we do have some ideas of, what's a forte sound, what's a piano sound, when you're playing and you want to create a big sound, our first inclination is to simply pound or pounce, right? To just physically know what a forte feels like. But I think a better way to do it is to listen to the slow build or maybe a quick burst in your head. And then it goes through all the steps you so beautifully described of physically lining up your body to follow through with the impulse that really starts in your head. And really to say more, I would probably need another hour.
You can have it.
But I will stop there. I think if I had anything to say, it would be just to add that mental impulse, that mental preparation, and to hear the sounds in relations to each other. So the forte in one context may not be the forte in another context. You can only know that by listening to the sound in a space and in a context of the piece you're playing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This next one is very familiar to me because I just experienced this today. There was a student that I was giving a lesson to, and I'm not going to point that person out, but the person has very advanced technique. Yet I made this person play a scale today, and the person dreaded it. I already saw that person move around a little bit. So this is actually a very interesting question. How important is it to practice technique, or maybe rudimentary skills or something like that, when your technique is already very advanced? Professor Gilmson, our pedagogy expert, how important is it to practice? If we can get a microphone to Professor Gilmson.
Thank you.
How important is it to actually practice technique when your technique is already advanced?
Yeah, it's a deep question, and the format of our discussion won't let me tell you everything that I want to tell you. Yeah, and I am a firm believer in early training. I come from the system from Russian training where it's done early on. And when it's done early on, then we are talking about further development. It doesn't happen like this in this land, and quite often students come with a huge repertoire when at the earlier ages it was not properly prepared and developed, and we run into problems. We all know that. Hand injuries, all sorts of disorders come from the fact that somewhere long time ago, that very first touch was not done. And the students jump into advanced repertoire, and I can't say they develop technique. They kind of grind their teeth and do it. Well, this spring I happened to judge a lot. Somehow every weekend I was judging good level competitions. Most of the advices that I would write in my critiques, dear students, please unlock your upper arm. If your upper arm is restricted, your sound will be restricted. And you understand the question of big sound is not different from the question of technique. And the question of technique is not different from the question of interpretation. It's all so much tied together. And you want me to answer this question now, huh? Yeah. Yes, so for the person who is playing advanced repertoire and playing it brilliantly, but he knows that it does not quite work.
Why does it have to be a he? Just kidding.
Okay, they know that it does not quite work. Look, we always know inside when something isn't right. We know it. Even if we go through it, you know, like you drive a car on a difficult road and you drive through it, we know when something is not right. We have to have a courage and wisdom to tell ourselves, I recognize that something is not right, and I need to look into it. And if for the time being I should not be playing Dante Sonata or whatever you would name, that's okay. That's all right. Dante Sonata will be there. It'll wait for you. But do yourself a favor. Find out what is it that does not work. You probably can tell that I feel very personal about it. Because I meet people, talented people, who come often with this kind of question, and I have honestly to tell them, we need to look into it. Rachmaninoff's third concerto is not the right piece for you today. Please, let us do what needs to be done.
Thank you. Would anybody dare follow that? Yes, Dr. Garcia.
Talking about this question of technique is interesting because what I'm going to share with you summarizes many of the questions that were asked. And I would never forget this. When I was 18 or so, I used to practice for several minutes, all my hand-ons, like every single day. But I was going on autopilot until Julian, my teacher, said, "Why are you doing it?" And I didn't have an answer. It really was just making me feel better, feeling good that I was doing something to improve my technique. But I didn't understand why I was doing it. And the moment that I understood how things worked and why I did certain things, I didn't need to practice 6 or 7 hours. You know, I could do exactly what I was achieving on 6, 7 hours in 2.5 hours, be very efficient with my time. And and I'm very glad I had teachers like Julian and Vera Kaplinsky, because hadn't it been for that training that they taught me how to be able to understand how things work, instead of repeating and repeating and repeating until I find something working, understanding how it works, and I can make it work in 10 minutes rather than 2 hours. It allowed me now to be able to continue to play as a dean, right? I don't have the luxury of time, so I need to be very efficient and organized with my time. And it's because of I was able to understand, and still a journey, you know, where I'm not there at all. I feel like I'm still on diapers as far as playing the piano or being even an educator or as a human being anyway. But really my advice is just try to make a journey in your life to understand how things worked. I was talking to Professor Spooner, you know, how Veda Kaplinsky changed my life when there was this passage in a Haydn sonata that I was practicing every rhythm, every, you know, repetition I could, and still didn't work. And then she came, she held my elbow, and she moved it in a direction that I never thought of, and boom, it was fixed. And I said, "What did you do? This was magic." And it was then when I understood that there was a gesture, a fingering, or something that was not there that helped me fix this and save me a lot of time and make me very efficient in how to practice.
Okay, thank you. I'm looking at the time, guys. I don't think we're going to get to every question, so I'm sorry. I'm trying to get to everybody's names as much as possible. But this one I will ask you guys to volunteer, because this is a very important question. How should one address and recover from burnout? This happens to all of us. Okay, Professor Bolen, right behind you.
I remember a short story I read some years ago by a sci-fi writer named Isaac Asimov. It was called the Eureka Phenomenon. And it was about the thought of, you know, you've had this probably all happen where your teacher, maybe you're in algebra class, and you're trying to figure out how X can be a number. And you spent 6 weeks trying to figure out how in the world can a letter be a number. And you're taking a shower one day, not even thinking about it, and bam, it hits you. And the reason is because all that hard work you did, somehow the brain has a way to sometimes unravel some of those problems you were having when you were taking time off. So I stress to my students that it's very important that you not go to the piano 7 hours every single day, but that you have a life and that you do things away from it. And to me, that's the joy of everything, and your life is, piano's just part of that, and that is the best way I could think of that might prevent getting in a situation where you feel like you're burnt out.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Bolen. Anybody else like to add the concept of burnout? Obviously, I pick faculty that do not burn out. So I'm very happy about that.
I'll say something.
All right, Professor Cann.
Just because I was inspired by what you just said, which is, it's so true. I found, because I struggle with that, absolutely. I feel like I deal with burnout, or almost do, sometimes. And then honestly, one part of that is learning from that. So that goes right into that. Sometimes, with your best efforts, one way or the other, you find yourself in a certain month or a certain year or whatever, just overwhelmed. Like everything sort of, added up, all your responsibilities, and you're just, really at the edge. And so one side is just always learn from things, reevaluate, figure out how to find balance in your life. Like, don't just, when you go through something where you felt like you literally were about to burn out, or you felt like you did, then say, okay, so what caused that? What was it that, and sometimes it's not saying yes to everything, like being a little bit, picky about what your day-to-day or what your month looks like, just figuring out how to balance that. You can learn from it, right? But sometimes you'll still find yourself there. So honestly, I'm constantly backtracking. But what I was going to add to that was absolutely about just giving your brain a rest, giving your body a rest. It is so interesting because when I actually think about times when I just sort of obsessed over everything and just like every day just went, hour by hour to try to get to a goal. And other times where I took a break, even if it was just a day or just left it alone, the irony is that sometimes I ended up getting to that goal faster, or even in a way I did even better with less time because of the break that I took. In other words, that immediately, there's a certain motivation that can come from that. Like, it's like we rewarded ourselves, right? And then it says, okay, well, now I'm ready to work, right? But it's also, it's like the fog that was your brain because you never stopped pushing has cleared. So it's a mix of all those things, right? But then you actually get to your goal faster and more efficiently, and you're happier. So I think that it seems counterintuitive sometimes. When you're in the midst of stress, you're in the middle of it all, in school and college for some of you, or high school, or whatever it may be, your instinct is, I have to keep pushing. How could I ever lose time? How can I stop practicing? I have competition coming up, in a month or whatever, so every day I can't take any breaks, right? But it's counterintuitive because you really feel like that's what you should do. But very often, it's hurting you. It's hurting your ability to be creative. It's hurting your ability to be your best self. And that's what we need in music. That's what we need out of you as an artist, for you to show your soul, your best self, your best everything through your music. So just know that instinct is almost always wrong, right? It's not to say that you don't work, and everybody's been talking about efficiency and work, but it is saying that being a healthy person, giving yourself those chances to breathe, are what's going to bring the best artistry out of you. I just truly believe it.
Thank you, both of you. Very, very nice. Here is a question that I'm actually quite passionate about, and I've answered this a few times, and I'm going to repeat myself from a couple of years ago. Is there any specific advice you would like to give us aspiring pianists? Let me take this in the beginning over here. One of the best advices that I can give is for you to be nice with each other. If you're not going to like somebody, make sure there is a very good reason. But overall, try to be very nice to each other and try to get along. What I can tell you about myself as I look across this room, I have a very personal relationship with every single person here. And those are very dearing things for me. Some of the ones that I can share, back in 2006, I was working in a chamber music festival in Austin, and I met a young, fantastic pianist named Washington Garcia, who was also on the faculty over there. We got along quite well, but there was this one time Washington came up to me and said, hey, you want to ride together to our students' recital? This was 18 years ago, my God. So I remember saying, sure. That 20-minute ride that we took to Whole Foods in downtown Austin absolutely changed my life, and probably his too, because it just opened up. 2 years later, he was the chair of the search committee, and I was hired over here. And rest is history. If that 20 minutes did not happen, I don't think any of this would have happened. So those are really cool stories for me. That time in 2010, when Washington and I were hosting our first festival, I'm wearing a shirt and tie, sitting very mildly and making sure I say no bad word. And Professor Slutsky's over here going, you guys, cut this Mr. Slutsky stuff out now. Call me Boris. We are colleagues. Oh my God. Those words still ring to me. Or that time in 2002, when I hadn't seen this gentleman in 11 years, and I only saw him for like 10 minutes. And Professor Anton Nel sees me and goes, Jason! It had been 11 years, and we met for 10 minutes because he was my freshman year advisor. And I have stories like that everywhere. Last year, in 2023, in January, I got a phone call from Professor Nel going, I'm sorry, but I won't be able to make it to the festival this year. So could you please let me out? And I went, of course, anything you say. I call Professor Slutsky and go, what do you think about Steven Spooner? He goes, absolutely, let's go after that. That was one of the greatest things that happened to me because, oh my God, Spooner is incredible. I'm going to go into a couple more stories.
Thank you so much, Ms. Furnell, for not coming. No. That's the moral of that particular interview.
A couple of other stories like this. In 2021, we had an online festival, and I got to meet a young, wonderful pianist named Terry G, playing Chopin Barcarolle several times. Absolutely stuck in my head. And she was also recommended by somebody who was a rising faculty star that year named Jean Park. We're so happy to have Terry, and Terry seemed very impressive. We remembered everything about her because we had never met in person. So there are these stories. I think keeping this, I gotta tell the main story. My older, incredible, unbelievable pianist sister by studio named Marina Lomazov that I met in 1991. Then I luckily ran into her in 2001 at UT. I had a free chance because she was over there to receive lessons from Professor Nel, and I was just outside doing my doctorate degree. And if I didn't run into her because we were friends back then, we were nice to each other, we wouldn't have this professional relationship. And my life has benefited so much, guys, from knowing Professor Lomazov and now Professor Rackers. Being nice is worthwhile. One more story. Last year, I remember going to TMTA after TSIPF. I walk into a room. I see Olivia O'Hara. So nice to see her. And Olivia was at that time sitting on a computer chatting with 3 other friends, which would have been Mei Ning, which would have been, I think it was Ellen Foreman, and it might have been JoJo. I don't know who else was all in that room, but oh my God, it was so nice to see all of that, and those were just such an endearing moment for me. Being nice, guys. You never know how it can influence you. Would anybody like to add anything else to providing an advice? Yeah, follow that.
When you feed your faculty well, they keep coming back.
I know we've been hearing a lot of this, but guys, this is a phenomenal faculty. Not only are they incredible at their craft, but they're really, really nice, and we really work as a team. Oh, and another thing, when we decided on this T-shirt day, Dr. Lomazov very, very much said, all for one, one for all last night. This doesn't happen. Faculty and students wearing the same T-shirt and being in the same room together. These are very special moments. Mm-hmm. So, and taking a picture together, which is something that I absolutely adore. So, okay, just 2 more questions, guys. what made you choose your specific career path? So instead of just saying as a piano professor, maybe specifically about the type of piano professor you are, or in Dr. Garcia's case, something that went into a different direction. Dr. Garcia, can we start with you? What made you choose your specific career path? And I'm talking about now.
That's a very interesting question. I will start by saying that when I was younger, I never would have thought I was going to be a dean, ever, right? I would have thought, never, I'm going to go on the dark side of the force. But I have to say something, is what led me to where I'm right now is that I allowed myself to immerse in different experiences and opportunities throughout my life that allowed me to learn and to discover things that if I had not put myself into those situations, I wouldn't have. Taking a chance, I really think is very important. Give a chance to something that sometimes may not seem something that you want, and you may be surprised on the things, right? When I was really young, I wanted to be just a concert pianist. I wanted to play all over the world and just do that. Then I discovered that I could be a professor. Then I discovered I could still play. And then I was asked for the assistant director position, and then it became all an evolution. But my advice would be just make sure that you make a goal in your life to become a well-rounded individual and somebody very interesting to talk with, because that is going to help you not only be more relevant and happier in life, but it's also going to allow you to have a better and a stronger impact in others. And as somebody who has not only applied for a job, but somebody who hires people, I can tell you one thing, and that may be personal, but I never hired the best pianist. I never hired the best violinist, that's part of it, and it's a strong part of it. I hire people that are kind, people that are nice, people that have values, people that have integrity, people that are easy to work with, people that I know that are going to be collegial, people that are able to do more than one thing, right? Somebody that is a really well-rounded individual, and that is the person that I usually will look very carefully and consider for, be very practical for hiring jobs.
That's excellent. There was going to be a question about what qualities you look for, so you just got two in one. Thank you, Dr. Garcia. And this is a question that I would like to also ask, choosing that one path. Dr. Zhu, you decided, while being born in the US, you decided to cross the pond, end up in China, and how did you make that decision?
It's a long story, but well, I think a lot of what Washington said is so true. To be able to put yourself in many different situations that test you and to explore. I think for me, it's always been about being curious and being resilient. There's always going to be obstacles in front of you, and virtually everything is going to be a test in some way. It might not yield to immediate results, but oftentimes what you do in these very sort of innocuous situations will help make you understand more about who you are and what you value. And I think this whole thing is just really a journey. And I mean, I've been extremely blessed. I'm very, very lucky and very, very fortunate. I was in school, finishing my doctorate. I had heard about this crazy sort of grant called a Fulbright from a colleague of mine, a colleague of mine who was then applying for a Fulbright to go to France. But then that school just never replied. And so she was, doing all the paperwork, and then the deadline is due in like 10 days. And she was just really, really angry about it. And I was like, oh, because I've always heard of what a Fulbright was, but I never knew really what it was. So then I went home and I checked, and whoa, they have all these different countries. And then I kind of just thought, well, I want to, pursue something in China, because it's always been part of my family background. I've always had interest growing up about it. I never really lived in China for extended periods of time, and so I thought, well, why don't I give it a shot? There's nothing to lose. I mean, the deadline's in 10 days, but oh well, who cares? So then I just tried it, and I got one. So while I was in China, it was just eye-opening. It was just like a new world, new experience, like all over the place. And yeah, just being curious to, you know, put yourself in really a new environment where at the time, true, I have a lot of extended family in China, but as far as people who I'd love to hang out with, like I didn't have a lot of people. So it was like a new experience, and then being comfortable with the language and then being in this new world, it really just was a testament to how resilient you have to be, and really just how much faith you have in something like that. Like, if you don't believe in yourself, I mean, trust me, nobody really will, unless it's your parents or your mentors and teachers. So for me, it was just a roller coaster, and I loved every second of it. And it put me in a position where it affected the next chapter of my life. And I was given this opportunity that I simply couldn't refuse. And I've just been super, super grateful and super happy to keep on this road.
Really are a nice guy, Dr. Zhu. That was sweet. Okay, one more question before we go into the way we traditionally end this with a little rapid fire, kind of one, quick advices. So, do you have any advices for us that are looking to become a professor? Very honestly, guys, a lot of us are kind of old. But there's a couple of us who just recently became tenure track professors. So can we start with Dr. Park, then go to Dr. Kim? Oh, yeah, that's Dr. Park, Alvin. Any advices on becoming a professor?
That's a good question. So, well, I guess everyone has different stories here. So I recently got promoted. I got tenure track professorship. But I've been there for like 4 to 5 years. So what I want to say here now is 2 things. Relationship is very important. So over the last 4 or 5 years, I try to be really supportive and try to be nice to our colleagues, to my students. Although my position was not that big in the past, but I try to come up with something creative. I just try to be a good teacher, good educator, a good colleague to all School of Music and the whole body of school. So the relationship is very important. So that's number 1. And number 2, I don't know how this happened. Like he said, Dr. Zhu said, I'm just really lucky to have like really good mentors in my life. So when I applied for this position again, a lot of my mentors have given me like incredible advice and support. And I don't think I did anything good to them, But yeah, I was just really grateful and lucky to have great mentors in my life. So try to have a good relationship with your friends, colleague, or even your teachers, professors in your life. I know you guys all have a different stage in your life, but yeah, I want to just say those 2 things.
Thank you.
So after DMA graduation, I was, of course, looking for a job, but I really wanted to be at somewhere I can be appreciated. I didn't want to just accept it anywhere just because I can get the job, because everyone wants it, right? Not many openings out there, and there are just so many of us who are too good these days. Everyone's so good and qualified. So for me, the best advice I got from my mentors, who's sitting right here. I studied with Enrico for my master's, and then Jason was always there for me, so I appreciate. Just, you are not being tested, you are also testing them. Like, you need to know where you are stepping into. That's what you gave me. So I knew that I loved performing, and I love interacting with the audiences. I was trying out kind of like creative concerts based in Chicago. So I knew I wanted somewhere who has kind of creative like visions, like a school mission. So I knew, okay, liberal arts college. If you're not familiar with that concept, like they're very open-minded school. So that's where I applied, 2 schools. So, but thankfully, yeah, I was there for final rounds for both of them, and I chose this school based in Orlando because the campus was just too beautiful to pass. Like I got there, people were so nice. I got there and I knew, okay, this is the one. Because yes, I was there for 2 interview rounds on campus, and then the first one was good, but I didn't feel like I was belong. Yes, everything was just smooth, but I just didn't feel like I'm part of them. But the second one, I got there, and as soon as I met with colleagues, I think this is gonna work out. So I kind of knew even before the result came out. So I think there is some kind of chemistry. It connects to all the things we've been talking about in this session. Like everything is about the relationship and then how you feel and how you interact with people. That's what exactly it was for me. So I'm just grateful for everyone here who's been really supportive of me as someone, started like as rising star 10 years ago, exact 10 years ago in 2014. Yeah, so thank you.
Okay, for the final part of this forum, we're going to go backwards from the way we did the introduction. We're going to start with Professor Cann and come straight down this row, and go to Professor Cann. I guess that's confusing. Cann?
Yeah, it's just, from far away, I can't, yeah.
So we're going to start with Professor Cann, and just quick advice to everybody over here, just something nice and short as our final word. Okay?
Well, as you are all you're on your journey of musical development and eventually musical career, what I would like to say is that life is hard, but I want you to remember you are somebody before you entered this place. You will be somebody when you leave this place. So in your darkest moment, when things don't go your way, always believe in yourself. And it's sometimes very hard to do, but once you believe in yourself, anything is possible.
I wanted to say this about practice. Please remember that practice makes permanent, not perfect. So try your best to practice in a way that you're consistently achieving your goals and not just playing as other people had said earlier. I love the advice of Franz Liszt, who said the first requirement of being a pianist is to develop one's character, because your music can never be more or less than who you are. And I think that's essential as a pianist.
Mine's kind of similar to what you just said. I think from someone who just got out of that, like student life, getting into the new real life, for me, just know who you are. I know it sounds, of course I know who I am, but really, like know what your forte is, and just really go for that, believe in yourself. All connected. Just find who you are and then just be yourself. That's it.
Find like-minded individuals and put your mental health before everything else.
Wow. Let's see. The days are long, but the years are short. So enjoy this ride, and don't forget to smile.
Well, I'm sure you all have struggles, obstacles in front of you, but don't give up. Be there. Just be patient and be yourself. It's all learning experience. It's long process. So yeah, just enjoy your life. It's gonna be there.
As I have heard so many talented performers these last few days, I know a lot of you enter competitions. Remember, it's not how difficult the work you play is, it's how you play it. And as you're choosing your repertoire, think of it this way. For example, if you're going to learn Rachmaninoff First Sonata, you're going to spend a lot of time on just Rachmaninoff First Sonata. Think of it this way. What do I have to give up to play that? What other great repertoire would I have to give up for the repertoire I'm playing now? You might be able to play 10 wonderful works and get more exposure to those things that will help you pedagogically than if you just focus on one hard piece.
I would say, the field, as we talked about this before, it's saturated with really great pianists. I mean, right here in this room, it's just, all of you are just phenomenal pianists here. So I think it can be easy to focus on comparing ourselves. That's just, and even outside of piano, right? We're constantly comparing ourselves to those around us. So I think that the very important thing to remember is that in the end, and Bill was saying that, a lot of people have been saying that, in the end, it's your individuality that makes you special. It is literally why we go to concerts and hear the same piece performed over and over and over again by different pianists or different musicians, because ultimately what we all yearn for is to get to know you. And so when you're developing your voice, always remember to keep developing your voice. That's what I mean to say, is that always be comfortable with who you are and how that translates into what you do in life. Because that is what's beautiful about this world, is that we're all bringing something different to the table. So if you remember that, any concert you do, any competition you do, anything, any job you apply to, if you remember that they're here for me, they want to see what I have to offer, then I think you'll do well in life.
What to say after that? I would just add to love music passionately and with all your heart and all your sincerity, and attend to those activities that continue to provide you solace and happiness by being curious about music, by investigating more repertoire, orchestral repertoire, the repertoire for the voice, the chamber music repertoire, not only the piano repertoire. Continue to thrive and to create the opportunities for thriving with music, believing in yourself, and simply giving music the voice that it deserves first in your days, if and when it's possible, to continue really in the path, in the quest for self-development with music. I think music is always going to be part of your life, and you are blessed to encounter it early. And so I wish that you can continue to embrace it and keep it closer to you for the rest of your lives.
That's beautiful. I was going to say something along the same lines, and that is that don't forget that what you're doing, that playing the piano is just a very small part of the whole business of music. People often ask me what I would wish for my students, and if I would have to give an honest answer, I would say I would like for them to have an interesting life in music, which is so much more than just playing your Beethoven sonata or your Chopin etudes. Well, there is it's also all part of a very, very large fabric, and so I just want you to, continue loving this art form. We're so privileged to be doing what we do. And I sometimes think we forget it when we're really stuck in the grind of not being able to get the skips in the Schumann Fantasy right the first time. But there's life beyond that. So just, enjoy yourself and keep loving the music.
A few weeks ago, I was on a meeting with the president cabinet, and we were discussing policies in order to manage issues and things at the university, foreseeing potential issues. And one of our vice presidents said something that was so true, and we all know. He said, guys, all of this is great, we need to do this, but if we could all just be and continue to mentor our students to be kind, we would not need any of these policies, just be kind. And that's a big part of it. So my advice to you is be kind. Make kindness something that you make a huge center core of your life and your mission in life. And number two, create and maintain, develop genuine relationships. It all comes down to the relationships that you have that's going to make you happier in life. Whether that's relationship with your friends, with your teachers. I just finished reading a book on leadership, and the book said something that many of you already know. When you are on your deathbed, you're not going to be thinking, oh, I won that competition 20 years ago, or I won this prize. You don't think about that when you're on your deathbed. The book said, when you're on your deathbed, you're thinking legacy. What's your legacy? Your kids, your family, your friends, whatever. Relationships is what people think on the last minutes when they are about to die. So make that a mission in your life to really focus on using music, using what you are working on right now to become a relevant person in your communities in one or another way. Relevance.
I'm going to tell you something that I was told when I was about 18 and about to move countries from former Soviet Union. My family and I were immigrating to America into a complete unknown. And I was terrified. And that mentor said, do not put lofty goals. Do not think lofty goals. Think small, achievable steps. Think something that you can accomplish. You put your mind to it. Within a week, within a month, maybe within 6 months. Achieve that. Then think of another goal. Achieve that. Before you know it, you will be reaching for your dreams. And that's the advice I want to give you.
I couldn't agree more. And following on what she said, it's absolutely the hard work that you do every day that leads to results. So every day, do the work, do the work. Don't skip steps in your work. Be open-minded. Try to learn something from every person that you meet, every person that you hear give a recital, every teacher that you work with has something to offer. And finally, be ambitious for yourselves and find opportunities for yourselves.
Oh, I don't know anything, I just work here. So many wonderful things have been said. It's very difficult to add anything, and I think if we compiled all those wise and beautiful things that were said, it would make a great book. We can keep talking about these things forever. I think one thing is important to remember is that we never stop learning. You always learn. Every day you learn something new. And I think that process makes the life worthwhile. And just do what you love to do. Don't peg yourself into one thing that you think you would like to do. Be open to things and do what you love doing. And that applies, if you one day decide you want to be a plumber, that's great. And if you want to be a soloist, that's fantastic. But just open yourself up. Keep learning. Keep just living life and doing what you love doing. I think that's, in the end, that's really important. It's not about fame. It's not about money. it's about living your life and not having regrets. That's my 2 cents.
I have 2 microphones. Can you imagine? Okay, which one? Can you hear me? Yeah. A lot of things have been said. Hardly I can add anything. I would like to advise you to learn as many things as you can. Try to play other keyboard instruments. Play Rameau on harpsichord. Play Mozart on fortepiano. You will discover a lot of things for yourself that you will take into your piano playing. And your piano playing will become better, more rich, more convincing, more yours, because you've learned it from another instrument. Learn how to play organ. Learn how to teach. Don't assume that if you can do it by yourself, you can convey it to another person. Other person may have absolutely different agenda. You may be interested in producing. Can you hold it for me, please? You may be interested in producing beautiful sound. And your little person may be interested in telling you about his puppy. So you need to know how to overcome them and still to project your ideas. Do a lot of collaborative art. Play with anyone who agrees to play with you. Vocalist, instrumentalist, everything. Learn from conductors. If you can possibly get a place in the orchestra, not a soloist with the orchestra, be in the orchestra. Hear it from inside of the orchestra. See the conductor's gesture, not to you, but to other instruments. You will learn enormously from it. In other words, do as much as you can. And since I'm the last one in the row to speak, do you know how fortunate we are to be doing what we are doing? We are chosen people to do these wonderful things. We should be very happy about it. Thank you.
Okay. I strategically did that order so it falls to me with the final word. I have 2 advices right now. Number 1, guys, email, text all your friends. TexasStatePresents.com. Tell them to come or watch online Anton Nel's recital tomorrow night. It's going to be incredible. That's advice number 1. Number 2, a lot of the questions that were submitted centers around the piano world. Do I really want to major in piano? It's so tough. Some of us are going, oh, it's so tricky. One of the things that we do not address enough is we gotta become part of the solution. We can't add on to the problems. So ask yourself, what can you do to become a member of the community that is the solution, that comes up with the solution to make this world better? Some of you guys might have really excellent programming ideas. Some of you might have excellent ideas to bring music to the public. Some of you guys might have that perfect program that's going to really engage the young people. John Thomas Morris has the idea to really discover the underperformed music. Whatever it is, become a member of the community to create the solution, not the problem. The 2024 Texas State International Piano Festival community is us, and we can come up with solutions. So, be part of the solution. Guys, one more hand for our panel. Have a wonderful time tonight. Go swimming. We went through a long week. The competition was phenomenal, but now it's time to relax and eat some barbecue and get fatter. So enjoy, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you, panel.